So I was reading A Course in Miracles the other day, and I ran across this quote. I've really been thinking about it all week. Then I would like to read something out of a Buddhist text. So it says, "Your heart retains thousands of little scraps of meanness which prevent the light of God from entering." Your heart retains thousands of little scraps of meanness which prevent the light of God from entering. And I just kind of been carrying around that thought, little scraps of meanness, all week. And I've noticed it, and I've seen them come up in my heart. You know, the phone rings when I'm busy doing something else, and I think, I don't want to talk to that person. Even though that person wants to talk to somebody or needs help or trying to communicate something, this little scrap of meanness comes up in my heart because I don't want to answer that phone. Or I'm busy doing something and somebody comes in. This lady came in looking for a lawyer that used to be in the same office that I'm in now. And at first it just kind of annoyed me because, you know, it's happened several times in the past. So immediately I came up, you know, with this little annoyance in my heart. And then I had to quickly, you know, it's not her fault. She didn't know. She looked on the internet. This is the address. Ma'am, can I help you? Okay, let me show you where they moved. But they moved down the hall, but they're not usually there on Fridays. Do you need me to help you find the phone number, their website, so you can email them? How can I help you today? That how can I help you today started with a little scrap of meanness that I had to put in check. And it says that those little scraps of meanness or negativity are what keep the light of God from shining in to my heart. So I have to remove them if I want the light of God, the light of source energy, the Buddha nature, or whatever you want to call it, shine in my heart. So I wanted to read this to you guys, and I just encourage you to try to make a connection, or if this, you know, brings up something in you while I'm reading or what I just said, just write it down or note it or put a pin in it, because we can discuss all of this here in a second. But I thought this was interesting. It says there are two ancient Buddhist texts. One is called the Therigatha and the other is called the Therigatha, which are full of joyful utterances. These joyful utterances have been written by Buddha's disciples over the years, both male and female. And they write about the profound peace and happiness that they have found in their lives by practicing Buddha's teachings. The king of Kosala once told the Buddha that unlike the disciples of other religions, who often look haggard, coarse, pale, emaciated, and unpossessing, the Buddha's disciples, on the other hand, always look joyful, elated, jubilant, exultant, enjoying the spiritual life, with faculties pleasing, free from anxiety, serene, peaceful, and living with a gazelle's mind, and light-hearted. The king added that he believed that this healthy disposition was due to the fact that these venerated people had certainly realized the great and full significance of the Buddhist teachings. It says, Buddhism is quite opposed to the melancholic, sorrowful, penitent, gloomy attitude of mind, which is actually considered a hindrance to the realization of ultimate truth. It is interesting to remember that joy itself is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment that are said to be essential qualities to be cultivated for the realization of nibbana or enlightenment. So there's three things here. There's these texts that were written of joyful utterances spoken by men and women that have followed the Buddhist path over the centuries. And you can get these two texts and read various things that these people have said about their joy and happiness in Buddhist teachings. And then it talks about this king of Kosala who told Buddha that all these other like spiritual disciples or followers look like they're starving themselves to death, or they're sad, or they're resentful or penitent. That actually the Buddha's disciples looked at they're joyful. He said they look like they have the gazelle's mind. They're light-hearted compared to the followers of these other religions. And then the third part of that, it says that Buddhism actually says that one of the 7 factors to reaching enlightenment is joy. You can't reach enlightenment without joy. So I just wanted to throw that out there and read it for you guys and see if you had any connection to it, if you want to talk about it.
A couple of things, come to mind for me is, you were talking about the meanness and I think that it's, I'm human and I have moments of making those kind of judgments, and I think that, I think for me to judge myself for being that way is also mean. You know what I mean? And it's like, and change comes through awareness. I've been rereading some Ram Dass, and he talks about something called the witness, and Anthony DeMello talks about it too, that when we see ourselves doing these things that we may not like, look at it without judgment, just sort of like, oh, there I am doing that thing again. And that's how change happens, not by judging it. And then like the Buddhists that you were talking about, the enlightened individuals, I think it's important for me too, not to compare myself and say, oh well, if I could just be like them, because there's a great quote that's comparison is the thief of joy. I am where I am, and I'm joyful sometimes, and sometimes I'm not. And I think that the more that I could just accept myself as I am and accept life as it is and live life on life's terms, I think the more joy I'll have. You know what I mean? So that's what comes to mind for me.
Thank you, Mark. And if you think of anything else, pop back in there, okay? Anybody else make a connection to any of that?
I think I like that quote, Mark. Thanks for sharing that. The comparison is the thief of joy for sure. I was thinking about having the little bits of meanness holding us back. Oh, sorry, there's doing some work in the background, so I don't know if you can hear that.
Okay.
But I can see we're holding on to things that are like mean or bad, don't allow us to really see the good. And maybe in that sense we are not able to see, like you said, the light of God, or attain nibbana. And I can see how that would be an important feature of being able to get there. I think that joy gives us a chance to like see things through different eyes, and without that we kind of miss things. And I mean, I think that's the hard thing about it also, is that it feels like it's something that needs to be developed and worked on, and it can't be always something that is easy. Yeah.
Thank you, Jorge. Something to always be worked on. Always to be cultivated. Cultivating your joy. Thank you. Anybody else? I was talking about Shane, were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say that I love the kind of outwardly facing mantra that you said about how can I help you today? Like when you're in a place like that, like, and I don't think that it should be one of sacrifice, like, but when your cup is full, when you're at a place, to constantly think, how can I help you today? Like outward facing, like I love that. So.
Thank you. Shane, you remember what happened at the end of Pollyanna, that movie? Because I didn't see it. You want to tell us what happened to her? Because Diane told me later.
Yeah, so whoever, like, I literally have only seen this movie once, and when I was a little kid on Sunday night at the Wonderful World of Disney at 6 o'clock. Like, that's the only time I've ever seen this movie. So I need to find out where Diane watched it so I can see it again. But she really wants to go to the fair, I believe, and whoever's her guardian will not let her go to the county fair or to ride the rides, to go play the games. And so she sneaks out of the house and climbs down this big oak tree and goes to the fair and wins a Cupid doll and like has this just incredible time of her life. And as she's crawling back into the house, sneaking in, she falls and becomes like a paraplegic or quadriplegic, like and so then the townspeople all come to say how she impacted their lives, this little girl, and like she, kind of is redeemed just because of her spirit and her nature. And even though she's laying in bed and can't walk and can't move, she still is joyful. She's still finding these reasons to be happy. And, but yeah, and that was all because, like, somebody wouldn't just let her go to the fair. Like, there's these rules that you can't do this, you can't be yourself, you can't enjoy this activity or whatever. So, and yeah, so all the townspeople rally around her, and, like, the town changes. The whole town changes.
All the people that used to make fun of her for being so Pollyanna, for playing the glad game, for always speaking positive and holding positive energy for everybody, for being a disruptor of their morose, suddenly, when she's lost hope because of her medical condition, the whole town comes to tell her, like one by one, how much influence she's had over their lives and how much her positive energy has changed the whole town. And I just gathered that from what Diane told me. I didn't see it, and then from what you just said.
Yeah, I forgot that she does lose hope. You're right, and that's the outward thing. Like, she doesn't have enough in this situation to muster that internal sunshine for herself. You're right, that does happen.
That's when her support network. Mark, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say I really want to see that movie now.
Let's have a watching party.
Sounds good.
Sounds awesome.
Well, speaking of that, so talking about the Buddhist disciples, right? So they lived a homeless life. They lived like camping out in the elements together and following Buddha and listening to his teachings. And so this king of Kosala said, "Hey man, your disciples have nothing. Like, they're literally homeless, but they look happy and joyful and serene and all these things, right?" And then with what we just said about Pollyanna, about the town coming, like, I wonder how important community is. Like the fact that these monks had community and that Pollyanna had community. And like the disciples, they had purpose. And purpose, they had purpose in their life. And then Pollyanna, she had, she was trying to not only make herself happy, but she was trying to make everyone happy. She was trying to spread the sunshine. So she had a purpose. So both.
Well, and that's exactly what y'all are doing with Clubhouse, is to build community, is to give these people community.
For some reason, it makes me think of this story I read, and I can't remember where I read it, but it was this guy that was a missionary in Mexico, and he was working with kids that were living on the street. These were like the poorest of the poor that he was working with, and there was this one little boy that he had really connected with, and he found out it was his birthday one day. So he said, I'm going to get this little boy an ice cream cone for his birthday. So he goes and gets an ice cream cone. He finds the little boy and he says, here, happy birthday. And the boy's eyes lit up and he yelled to all his friends, we have ice cream, we have ice cream. And all his friends came over then and they all took turns licking this ice cream cone. Isn't that amazing?
That's beautiful.
Mark, there's another story that I remember. It's kind of that same mentality about, and they're going to have this competition. And I think this was based in, somewhere in Africa kind of thing. And that was the thing is like, and the winner was going to get something. And the kids, when they took off on their race or whatever, all joined hands. Crossed the finish line at the same time. And they were like, well, don't one of you want to be the winner? And they're like, well, if my friends aren't, part of this, then none of us win. Either all of us win or none of us win. And that same kind of community aspect too.
I think that's beautiful. Nobody has to lose in order for you to win. You don't have to take something from somebody else to enjoy it. We can all enjoy it. Right, Mark? Okay. Anybody else have any other statements or anything else you're thinking about? So what do you think about happiness? Is happiness a real thing, or do we have to generate it ourselves? And how important it is to be happy. Is there a time where we actually need not to be happy? Because I feel like, me and Mark, we facilitate something called rap. And part of that rap is how to change the way you feel. So if you start feeling sad, let's just say, one example, there are things you can do called wellness tools to turn that around. But throughout this training, since we've been doing it, I've been surprised that there's been at least 3 people that have said, there's times that I don't need to turn away from sadness. There's actually times I need to just get in my bed and feel sad all day and cry and be there. And so me, speaking for myself, I would say, okay, well, that's cool, but if you don't want to feel that way, here's all these wellness tools you can use. But their point was, sometimes I need to feel that. Sometimes I need to be there.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like when you get stuck there, that's when you need something to get out of. Like, all the emotions that we experience, we're here to experience. Like, we're here to know what anger feels like. We're here to know what sadness feels like. Humiliation, devastation, paralyzing grief, all of those things. But when you get stuck there and you cannot get out, and it starts to affect your living and continuing on, that's when you need help to get out. And those kind of programs or other people or medication or whatever it is. Like, that's the problem, is people getting stuck in that particular emotion or in an emotion that doesn't help them live and participate in life fully.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Mark, what do you think about that? Do we need sadness as well as happiness? Do we need sorrow and pain and joy?
And for some reason, I keep thinking about Anthony DeMello. He was a Catholic priest, an Indian Catholic priest and psychologist, and he talks about emotions and that to be human, um, we're all going to experience times of depression and anxiety. To believe that happiness means that we never experience negative emotions is just not based in reality. And so, and he talks a lot about language, and he says that when you're depressed, you're not. He says you're having a depression or something like that. To just look at it as this is something that I'm going through, and it will pass. Because I know in my experience it always does pass. Now Shane, was talking about sometimes it doesn't pass, and that's when you need help, and that's okay. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, so yeah, that's what I think about.
Thank you, Mark.
Charlie sent me a YouTube video, I think, when I had hit this bottomless, felt like I just hit the bottom of a bottomless pit, and it was about the word depression and how it sounds like deep rest, and that sometimes you need some very deep rest for you to bounce back in things. But yeah, language is really interesting with descriptions of things too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know that when I've gone through periods of depression or anxiety or just sort of feeling out of sorts, I generally come out of it having learned something about myself. So I think that there's, in a weird way, there's a benefit to those negative emotions if we're open to learning from it.
Well, and then also labeling negative is more judgment. Like, I mean, we've been kind of trained to see this way of behaving or this way of feeling is bad. This way of feeling is good, but really we're the full spectrum of it.
I noticed that, with meditation, and I've shared this many times, but the first time I tried meditation, I walked into the Zen Center that was at the Shambhala, and I had done short bits of meditation with the Shambhala Center, but then when I went in with that Zen group, they were sitting, wearing all black, facing the wall, and I think we sat for like 45 minutes straight. And I was used to distraction. I had always distracted myself from my thoughts and my feelings. And suddenly I was stuck in a room where it was absolutely quiet. I could hear myself swallow. I felt like every time I swallowed, it was echoing off the walls. And I was alone for the first time for 45 minutes with my own brain. And I tell you what, I was fantasizing about jumping up and running and jumping through the window and not even opening the window first, diving through the glass to get out of that room and get away from my head. And so I think that meditation has helped me over the years be more and more comfortable in my own skin, but also times of depression has helped me, it's turned my body off. It's basically told my body, nope, you're not going to get up, you're not going to go do that, you're not going to leave the house, you're going to lay on the couch and you're going to process all this. all these storm clouds are gonna run through you, and then when it passes, it's gonna pass. But you're not gonna distract yourself again. You're gonna face this, you know. And I think it's been very therapeutic at times. That the whatever the mind put the body on pause and said you can't run from this anymore. You have to let this run its course. And so I think it can be therapeutic, depression. But as both of you said, I don't want to be stuck there. I've been stuck there before, and it's not a good, healthy place to be. Any other thoughts on that? Jorge, did you have anything on that, or Edgar?
I was just going to say that, I think it's important to learn how to sit with your feelings and, not necessarily try to change the way you feel. I did that for years, trying to change the way I feel with all kinds of different things, with all kinds of external things, relationships, material possessions, drugs and alcohol. But one of the things that I've learned how to do is, just sit with the feelings, and like Mark said, realize that they're just temporary and that they'll pass.
Thank you, Edgar.
I was gonna say just I think I don't know about anybody else, but with COVID and everything that's been going down, like I have tried, like before COVID, it was I was meditating on a more regular basis, and I felt it was a little easier to do that. And right now with COVID going on, it's really easy for me to get very uncomfortable trying to meditate quickly. Sometimes more than others. Definitely today, when we were doing our formal meditation, it was a struggle to try to go back to the breath and just recognize the thought and let it go. And I can totally relate to that feeling of not being comfortable with your thoughts for a minute. Anyways.
Thank you, Jorge. Any closing thoughts, Shane or Mark?
I was just, to just kind of piggyback on what Edgar was saying about feelings. It's also, feelings are not facts. They're just feelings. My feelings and what I'm thinking are not always telling me the truth. And I think recognizing that is helpful as well.
Feelings are not facts. I like that. Any closing thoughts, Shane?
No, just again, I really appreciate this. Appreciate you doing it.
Cool, thank you. So let's go ahead and do our chant, closing chant. If you want to put yourself on mute. One of the most important things is to dedicate. In Buddhist, and especially Tibetan Buddhism, is so important that we dedicate the merit. And if you don't know what that is, I think it's a beautiful philosophy. Talk about, Mark was talking about, and Shane was talking about, if my friends can't enjoy this, I don't want to enjoy this by myself, right? If all my friends can't win, I don't want to win. So whenever we take time out of our lives to practice the Dharma together as a Sangha, as a community, we're generating all this positive energy and love, and we're soaking that up. And so at the end, when we dedicate the merit, we're saying, if I've gained any positive energy or any goodness from this practice, I don't want to keep it myself. I want to generate it out to every universe, every cosmos, every being, animal, plant, person. I want all of us to share in this merit, in this love, in this positive energy. And so it's kind of like every time someone, in a Tibetan Buddhist, any form of ceremony, there will always be a dedication of merit to make sure that everybody has a little piece of the goodness. All right. Contemplation of the 10 perfecting qualities. May I be generous and helpful. May I be pure, virtuous, and well-disciplined. May I not be selfish. May I be strenuous, energetic, and persevering. May I be patient. May I be able to bear and forbear the wrongs of others. May I be honest and truthful. May I be firm and resolute. May I be kind, compassionate, and friendly. May I be humble, calm, quiet, unruffled, and serene. Discourse on loving kindness. Just as a mother would protect her only child even at her own life's risk, so let everyone cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Let our hearts of boundless love pervade the whole world, so that all beings without exception might be happy. Closing dedication of merit. If I have attained any merit by the result of this practice, may be accredited to all beings everywhere. May they find the source of suffering and extinguish it. May they find the source of happiness and increase it. May all beings dwell in ultimate unalloyed nibbana. We'll bow to the shrine 3 times. Bowing is actually misinterpreted a lot of times. Bowing shows humbleness. If you can humble yourself and lower your ego, I'm not bowing to this statue that I bought at Ross of Buddha, and I'm not bowing to the historical Buddha. I'm bowing to the Sangha. I'm bowing to the sacredness of this moment. I'm bowing to the infinite universe. I'm bowing to all of us being one, and I'm doing that outwardly by showing the humbleness and the sacredness of this moment. All right, speaking of, let's bow to each other with smiles of gratitude. And closing bell. All right, guys, we nailed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Connie.
Thank you, Mark.
Y'all have a good weekend.
All right, I'm glad you could make it, Mark.
Me too.
Be careful on that bike.
Careful is my middle name.
I thought it was danger. You changed it?
Just when I'm on the bike.
All right, guys, have a wonderful day. I love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ask Diane where she watched that movie.
Okay. I'll definitely text